Welcome to Sleepless Readings. Tonight we'll be reading a tale called I Think I Need to Kill My Daughter. Advice. My wife and I share a birthday. We met all the way back in the 11th grade. I suppose you could say that we were high school sweethearts, but really it just feels like we were meant to be together. There's this certain attraction that goes beyond physical or emotional levels. Before I met her, I never understood or even believed in the term soulmate. Now, however, I wouldn't describe her as anything but. There's some otherworldly pull between us that I cannot describe. We dated for a while in college, but when I graduated trade school, I started making some serious money. She still had another 2 years to go in her degree, but with the new money giving me some kind of sense of financial security, I asked her to marry me. Of course, she said yes. We got married in my parents' backyard, just a couple people. She didn't want anything huge, and neither did I. Once she graduated, we were both 23. I could have sworn that before her, I never had any intention of having kids. I thought they were noisy, expensive, and took up your whole life. But again, indescribably, I had this desperation to have children with her. She says that she felt the same kind of intense desire for kids as well. For 2 years, we tried again and again to conceive, but we were never successful. We talked to doctors and got advice from as many health experts as we could see, but nothing was quite working. So you can imagine how we felt when we found out that she was pregnant the night of our 25th birthdays. That was 5 years ago now. We're both 30, celebrated it about 10 months ago. Our daughter, Evelyn, just turned 5, and I'm writing this to say that I wish she didn't. I hate myself for that thought, but it's how I truly feel. Evelyn is a little bit of a weird child, but we always just figured her unique. When she was very young, she never cried. Even when my wife gave birth, the doctors were afraid she wasn't alive because she wouldn't cry at all. They said that it was very rare, but sometimes it does happen. None of them had personally seen it before, only ever heard it in anecdotes. When we brought Evelyn home, she still never cried. Not when she was cold, not when she was hungry, nothing. She would just look around the room she was in and very quickly learn to point haphazardly at what she wanted. She pointed at my wife if she was hungry and pointed to her crib if she was cold or tired. Another thing about Evelyn was that she almost outright refused to play with any baby toys. She didn't care for a rattle, she spat out soothers, she wouldn't even spin the mobile I hung above her crib. My wife and I took her to a counselor about this, but we were told that sometimes children just don't fit into those kinds of norms. We were told that we wouldn't know if something was truly wrong until she turned about 2, and her behavior could be better observed. When she finally did turn 2, she still refused to play at all. When she was 1, she also started to form almost full-fledged sentences and could hold conversation near to the level of an adult. She understood words with 4 or more syllables, like undesirable, that we didn't even know where she would have learned. She was also able to walk around on her own after only maybe 6 months. And I know that nobody gets experience before their first child, but even we knew that babies stumbled and crawled before getting on 2 feet. Evelyn, one morning, just stood up and walked across the room. No stumbling or imbalance at all. We took her back to the counselor because we were both afraid that she may have some sort of developmental or neurological issues we should know about. The counselor again kind of dismissed us. She said that it wasn't wholly strange for a child to start walking early or talking so well. We were told that it was normal for new parents to have this kind of anxiety because, like I said before, nobody has experience when they have their first child. Now, Evelyn is 5 years old. She hasn't made any friends in kindergarten and still doesn't like traditional play. We've been called by her teacher numerous times about her behavior. She refuses to join class activities, answers teachers' questions with weird, indecipherable nonsense, and even scares the other kids somehow with things she whispers to them. At home, she doesn't want to do anything with us. She prefers to be alone, sometimes starfishing in the grass in the backyard, just staring at the sky. At dinner time, she never fusses about her vegetables. In fact, she eats broccoli like it's popcorn. She also always takes a napkin and wipes her face and the area she eats in, says thank you, and puts her own dishes in the dishwasher. My 5-year-old daughter acts like a 30-year-old at a high-class restaurant. Sometimes she sits in her room by herself for hours on end. One night I walked up the stairs alone too quietly and caught her whispering into her closet. I stood there for a short second, just watching her. I tried to listen to what she was saying, but it didn't even seem like English. I don't know if it was simply too quiet to make out, but I swear I could make things out that I didn't understand at all. Without me making a noise, she snapped her head around to look at me and simply asked,
"Is it bedtime, Daddy?"
as if nothing had happened. I found her diary a couple months ago. There were drawings all throughout it of some horrible towering spire covered in windows. Under all of the sketches, she had written the word Chicxulub. How in the hell does a 5-year-old know what that is? She had also written some weird gibberish in the journal. Some of the words were English, but some were an amalgam of letters with acute accents, and some with a diaeresis or umlaut. I didn't show anybody, not even my wife, and put it back exactly where I found it. Evelyn sometimes tells me about how limited time is. She explains histories of incredibly specific villages and settlements from the age of Mesopotamia, ways they lived and how they died. For the longest time, I figured she just had an overactive imagination, until I finally started Googling the things she talked about. She would mention such obscure fossil records that only people very active in the fields of anthropology and paleontology even know or care about. I didn't think this was that weird until she started mentioning specific details about events that hadn't even been concluded yet. She once mentioned a specific site where the bodies of tens of early Homo sapiens had been found with man-inflicted wounds. But rather than talk about how they had been killed by arrowheads and stone swords, she told me about specific names of the men who killed them. She even said something along the lines of, they deserved it anyway after they took those things from them. I spoke to multiple paleontologists online about specific details she would bring up and asked them if they had ever seen anything published about them. One of them told me that there still isn't even substantial evidence that Homo sapiens that early even had names for each other to begin with. However, what has terrified me the most is that about 2 months ago, I caught her whispering into her closet again. This time, it wasn't entirely gibberish. She said some words in English that I didn't even know she knew or understood. Massacre, hedonism, hubris, judgment, Holocaust, torture, ascension, Babel. But what really got me was when she got really quiet and I heard something. Her closet seemed to be talking back to her. It was a deep but very calm voice. It was quiet but deafening all the same. And it said a specific sentence that still repeats in my head.
The time is coming. Your purpose is fulfilled.
I don't know what time is coming or what my daughter's purpose is, but I don't quite want to find out. I have all these thoughts in my head about why my wife and I were drawn together so strongly, why my daughter is doing all of these weird things, and why I seem to be the only one aware of it. I think I have only one solution to whatever Evelyn and her friend are planning for us. I can't talk about it with my wife because I know she'll disapprove. She hasn't believed me on the rare occasions that I have told her about the things I've found or heard, but she also hasn't seen everything that I've seen. I only have one idea of how to solve this. I think I need to kill my daughter. I just hope my wife understands. Thank you for listening. That was I Think I Need to Kill My Daughter. Advice.
Don't forget to like the video, it does help to boost the channel.
Leave a comment for the algorithm.
There's new stories every Sunday.
Not to mention the shorts on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
So subscribe.
And ring the bell.
Thanks, guys. And, as always, stay sleepless.